And this has gone around quite a bit, and although I've never been able to track down a primary source, such as a document or any sort of confirmation that this is actually a legitimate quote, so just take it at face value, but just use your own discernment to decide whether or not this sounds possible, and consider the possibility with how accurate it sounds, especially if you know your history and your background with the Federal Reserve and sovereignty and natural law, common law versus admiralty law, and all of that content. And if you're new and you've never heard anything about any of that, see my full video playlist on my channel called Government and Conspiracy, and see that whole playlist of my full videos on that to get you started into that information as to how deep it goes. But so just listen to this and see if it could in any way seem possible or plausible as applied to our previous circumstance, as well as its reiteration in a digital circumstance, which is we are witnessing right now. And I will explain that throughout this video. So the following is a quote by Edward Mandell House, who had this to say in a private meeting with President Woodrow Wilson upon the creation of the Federal Reserve System, as well as the creation of the Birth Registration Act. Very soon, every American will be required to register their biological property in a national system designed to keep track of the people. To keep track of the people. Think about this in a modern context of tracking and tracing the people to protect from pandemics. He goes on to say, and that will operate under the ancient system of pledging. And by such methodology, we can compel people to submit to our agenda, which will affect our security as a chargeback for our fiat paper currency. This is talking about the creation of the Federal Reserve System, mind you. He goes on to say every American will be forced to register as their birth certificate registration system upon birth into this debt slavery system. It goes on to say, or suffer being unable to work and earn a living. And this is the reality that we have found ourselves in. If you don't have your papers, your documentation, this was the creation of your papers, the passports, the licensing, hunting, fishing, licenses for everything. You have to ask the government permission to do the things that are natural born inherent rights, which they take from us by the means of having corporate policy enforcers enforce these corporate policies at gunpoint. If we don't comply with the corporate policy, then we could be severely harmed, or even killed. Thus the significance and the signs of the sins in signification of their signatures on these dead legal fictions, such as IDs, mortgages, or mortgages, meaning death pledge, bills, etc. Because our citizenship begins when we board the citizen ship, which sails the high seas carrying the seamen, and it all begins when the male ship docks in the female slot or slip, also known as its berth, and unloads the cargo, or the seamen, which sail up the waters of the canal. So she then gets pregnant and now carries the precious cargo, and will give birth to the new citizen, which must now register to board that citizen ship, and repeat the cycle all over again, until the citizens catch on to the ancient spells of phony phonetic Phoenicians, tools of commerce and piracy of the high seas, and the human commodity through the use of their made-up language, which gives us our modern English. It's my honor to extend to you an invitation into Etymology Esoterica Grammatica, or the study of root meanings of esoteric spelling, and discussing the topic of Philosophia. Philo, the love of, and Sophia, wisdom. And so we can live without these documentations and without this system, but to do that, you have to be entirely sovereign and entirely independent. Basically living off-grid in the woods, which their corporate policy officers will not allow, mind you. They won't allow us to mind our own business in the woods. They'll come track us down, and if we're surfing in the ocean or if we're hiking a trail in the woods, and they'll come track us down with their police drones and give us fines and tolls and throw us in a FEMA camp for not social distancing, even though we're alone in the wilderness. But so he goes on to say, they will be our chattel, and we will hold the security interest over them forever, by operation of the law merchant under the scheme of secured transactions. Americans, by unknowingly or unwittingly delivering the bills of lading to us, will be rendered bankrupt and insolvent, forever to remain economic slaves through taxation secured by their pledges. They will be stripped of their rights and given a commercial value designed to make us profit, and they will be none the wiser, for not one man in a million could ever figure out our plans, and, if by accident one or two should figure it out, we have in our arsenal plausible deniability. So in other words, the public will never believe this lie. It's too great, it's too grand, just as Edward Bernays. And he goes on to say, after all, this is only the logical way to fund government, by floating liens and debts to the registrants in the form of benefits and privileges. This will inevitably reap us huge profits beyond our wildest expectations and leave every American a contributor to this fraud, which we will call social insurance, quote unquote, which we now know as Social Security, quote unquote. Without realizing it, every American will insure for us any loss we may incur, and in this manner every American will unknowingly be our servant, however begrudgingly. The people will become helpless and without any hope for their redemption, and we will employ the high office of the president of our dummy corporation to foment this plot against America. So in other words, the United States is in United States of America Incorporated. It's right next to Walmart or any other corporation. And the president and the vice president, these are the presidents and vice presidents of the corporation, folks. And there are also CEOs of the United States of America Incorporated, and there are also these are the owners of the corporation, and they are not you, and they are not the government that we vote and elect for on the news. And so this is the exact same thing that we are witnessing now, once again, only this is the digitization of the Birth Registration Act, as well as, so we are seeing this system from birth all the way unto death. This is why we see so much corruption in the death industry, such as the hospital system and the death registrations and taxes and fines for taxes and fines from birth until death. You cannot enter or escape this world. Both of these gateways are heavily guarded by the slavers of the world.
In 1871, when the United States became incorporated, they attached our birth certificates to a CUSIP number on the stock exchange, which equals slave trade. And it's done every time a baby is born. There is a bond trust account set up, and they trade us on the stock market. And this is all documented, and I know it's shocking. Some of you are hearing this for the very first time, and you're thinking, oh my God, how could they possibly? The judges, the attorneys, all belong to the Bar Association. It's still a little bit vague as to what BAR stands for, but we do know the first word is for British. Some people say accredited, some say attorney, and a registry. They do not work for us, we the people. We the people are working for them. We don't need a gold standard. We are the value to the Federal Reserve note. We can give value to our United States currency. The Constitution that they're teaching today, as wonderful as it is to learn about a big portion of it, it's not the correct Constitution. It's actually a second Constitution, and that's the one that they wrote when they went incorporated. In 1933, there was the Emergency Banking Act. You've got the War Powers Act, Trading with Enemies Act, and every year, the United States corporation, masquerading as our supposed government, which is no more than elected officials like a CEO and the stockholders board for AT&T or Microsoft. So you're not voting for a legislation. You're not voting for a representative because each and every one of them are bonded under a United States corporation. There's 37,000 subsidiaries of that corporation. Every agency, when you look it up on Dun & Bradstreet, is listed as a corporation. It is a for-profit private company, and we are their inventory. I feel bad knowing that I've been enslaved all this time, and I'm sorry for the people during the civil rights, all the wonderful ones who were already in slavery and they thought they were free. We've all been in this boat together, and people need to really wake up, and we need to hold these corporate officials' feet to the fire and insist the corporation must be dissolved, the Federal Reserve must be banned from this country, and we must turn our system of judiciary back to a common law. If there's no harm, no loss, there's no crime. And everything else is a way to get you to pay. Even the court systems are hooked up to the CUSIP system. When you get a case number on a court document and you're being charged with something, why do you think they call it a bill or being charged? Because that's exactly what's happening. They set that court number up, and it's attached to the stock exchange too. And from the moment you're arrested or charged, they start trading you on the stock market, swapping you just like they were with the derivatives and the default swaps on the mortgage. And that's a whole nother thing. We all know that's coming out in the mainstream media. Federal Reserve is meeting on November 2nd, the same day as elections. All I can say is wait for the sky to fall, because they know their house of cards is tumbling in on top of them. And if I do nothing but go to my grave, I will see them pay for their evil that they have committed, not only against our nation, but every nation out there. It's been an illusion. And every person who gets up, even Jan Brewer, Trent Franks, I don't care who they are, they know their position. They know they've been lying to you. Why do you think they have such a disregard for the Constitution? What Constitution? They know that they're doing as they damn well please, because as an employee of a company, can you go tell the boss how to run his company? Do you think he's going to change because of you? And when you add this all up and you think back to, especially lately, it's rolling over so quickly on itself. So when you go to the polls, I'm going to the polls. But I'm writing in the name of Jesus Christ, because there's no one, I will not vote for the lesser of evil. Because evil is evil. And I hope that someday we'll all be able to have real elections with a de jure government, a de jure constitution, and a common law of land. I've got a few extra DVDs of a video called Secret of Oz. It explains the money situation very well. We don't have to have gold standard. North Dakota has a state-owned, state-chartered bank. They do not deal with the Federal Reserve. They haven't since 1909. They have a 3.2 unemployment rate right now, and they have a $600,000 surplus, and they're just rolling along like roses. They didn't suffer during the TARP, the bailout, and all of this. They don't have a foreclosure rate. So let's open our eyes and see what one state held their feet to the fire and didn't give in to the Federal Reserve.
So stay tuned for the next part. We'll pick up right here where we left off. What you can watch it. I will leave any intros and stuff out so that you can watch it in a consecutive style. And so again, my name is Cullen Smith. This is Lifting the Veil. You can find all of my full books, presentations, videos, films, articles, posts at patreon.com/liftingtheveil. And there is also a ton of exclusive content, and I will leave the cited reference links in the description down below. So you can check that out for all of my full content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned, make sure to subscribe. Please help me reach more people by sharing these videos around on the internet, because I rely solely on word of mouth, and the recommended algorithms are not recommending any of my videos or films anymore. My channel has literally been completely restricted, so I rely on your help, and I need your help. So please help support this channel by sharing my work around if you appreciate it, and make sure to subscribe if you're not a subscriber already, and leave me your comments. I definitely want to know what you have to share and what you have to think about all of this stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Y'all stay safe and take care of yourselves, and I will see you later.